What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me on these analysis. We're going to be looking at MSTR and Bitcoin. So we're still in the same spot. Nothing changed. We're just kind of trending sideways underneath this downward sloping trend line and sandwiched in between these two levels, this mid-range level and this lower part of the range right here, sitting at 325 to 311. We got a bounce the previous week, a nice wick off of that. We gapped down to start this week, and then we had a sideways day, and now we had a pretty solid day, up 2.38%, slightly outperformed Bitcoin, which is nice to see. That's why people want to invest in MSTR. It's for the leverage to the upside and to the downside, not only leverage to the downside. So it's nice to see it outperforming Bitcoin. Granted, it's only one day, but at the same time, MSTR divided by IBIT was definitely down in the dumps. So I'm not surprised to see some kind of a move to the upside. And not only that, we should be at some point pushing to the top of this range and this downward sloping trend line for some kind of retest to determine if price wants to break through or fall down. Like I said, we're still in the same spot of chopping sideways, and we're either going to make a decision to break out, retest, and continue higher, or chop and fall through, retest, and then potentially continue that move down. And then that would probably, have MSTR divided by IBIT continue to drop as well. But if we can break out of here and start some momentum to the upside, then maybe MSTR divided by IBIT can start to flip back around, and we can get a nice move to the upside there. On the weekly SMA, like I said, we already got our bounce off the 50, so that's solid. That's a good level that we want to bounce off of. It's a key support level. You can see that we found a key level of support there, and we ended up rallying, 85% or so off of that bounce. So we'll see what happens again. And previously we came relatively close, and then we ended up shooting up higher. You tend to get pretty solid moves off of it. You can see here we had this initial move of 50%, and then if you count this entire move, it was a total of around 100%. And then it continued just rallying from there and never ended up coming back. Came pretty close, but never actually touching, kind of similar to here. So the 50 is a strong level, and if we lose it, you can kind of expect the same move, but to the downside, where it's going to be a retest, a strong level of resistance, and then continuing to the downside. So as long as we hold it, things should be okay, at least here for MSTR temporarily. And as long as Bitcoin continues to stair step its way up to the upside. We are pushing towards our 200-day. We're still underneath it slightly. It's sitting at 356, and we closed at 351.36. So once we come up to that level, I would expect some kind of rejection, at least temporarily, throughout that trading day. Hopefully we can close back above it and retest and use it as support. But if we find rejection, don't be surprised, because that's going to be a strong level right above our head. So be ready at 356. That'll be a strong level. On top of 356, you also have the 4-hour 20 moving average at 356 as well. So that's going to be another key level of support and resistance. And then you have two more on top of you as well, the 200 and the 50 on the 4-hour, but that's sitting at around 377 to 380. That's going to be another key level of resistance. So be aware of those levels, so when they come, you're not caught off guard as to why you're finding some kind of rejection. And here on the 8-week EMA, you can see we fell underneath it, and typically we revert back to the EMA because it usually holds a trend intact, whether it's to the upside or to the downside. And we'll probably revert back to it and decide if we want to continue this move further, or if we want to actually just continue trending higher. On the daily, right now it looks like it's just showing a continuation to the downside. We closed relatively close to it, but not above it just yet. It's sitting at around 354. So hopefully we can close back above it and start to get a nice little trend upward and get some bullish momentum behind MSTR. But of course we need Bitcoin to start doing well. But not only do we need Bitcoin to do well, we need MSTR to start outperforming Bitcoin and pretty much bring the sentiment back up. The volume was actually kind of low. It was at 8.96 million. And the previous day was 10.98. Although it was a green day, It looks like there wasn't really any bearish momentum for the day. Just a slow climb upward throughout the day and not too much sideways chop. And when we take a look at Bitcoin long term, I still think we can see higher prices. It seems like we're just retesting this previous level that we broke out of. Because when you really take a look here, we didn't really get much of a retest of this major zone here. So if you just take that zone, when we broke out, we really didn't get any kind of retest of it. We have minor levels that we might have retested, but that doesn't really count as much as the major support levels. And it looks like we're coming back to test those levels, and looks like we're finding a bounce. Hopefully we don't fall through. Bitcoin likes to do this before having significant moves to the upside. Usually sees some kind of pullback to retest those levels, to say, all right, we're not going to fall through. This is a strong level of support. Let's keep moving higher. That's kind of how Bitcoin likes to operate. So we'll see if that holds true here. Well, that's kind of what I'm seeing at the moment. Like I said, if we lose that level, then we can start talking about lower targets. But for now, that major level is being retested. And on the daily, it was a pretty bearish day. We closed underneath this previous wick here, which we definitely didn't want to see, which is going to open up the idea of retesting and potentially falling to lower levels. On the weekly SMA, we almost touched it, pretty close, and it looks like we got a nice little bounce. I don't know if we'll make it all the way down to the 200-day. That's pretty far down. That's all the way down to about 101. And the 4-hour has all three of them pushing down on us at the moment, so be aware of that. And when you talk about RSI and the monthly, I still don't think we're close yet. We have seen tops at 95, 90, and more than likely it's going to be lower than that 90 target. When you take a look at this downward sloping trend line, it's going to land somewhere in that area. So that's kind of what I'm expecting to happen over the course of the next 3-4 months, potentially. Depends if it extends into 2026. Of course, it's going to be varying on the Federal Reserve and if they start to increase their balance sheet. And that'll be the beginning of QE, and that's when we'll see the dump on Bitcoin dominance, and that's when you'll start to see altcoins rally immensely. So that's what we're hoping for, and that's where we could see higher prices for Bitcoin. Right now, here on the weekly, we're still holding in bullish territory, but we're sitting at around 56.8. We need to break back above our yellow moving average and try and get a move above overbought territory at 70 and get a nice green shaded area like we've seen previously. It looks like we could still be seeing higher levels, as we haven't even seen any kind of major spike in Coinbase's ranking on the App Store, which is another key indicator that we'll be looking at. I'll definitely keep you up to date on that in the Discord, but right now we're just looking like an average day, really, sitting at 322 on the rankings. And you can see, like in November 2024, we had a crazy move and we made it all the way to 9. And then if you zoom out further, you can see what happens in the previous years. In 2021, we made it almost all the way up to number 1, and we actually did make it to number 1, and so on. It happens time and time again. And in 17, we made it, I believe, to number 1 as well. So we haven't even seen that blow off top. Once you see Coinbase all the way at number 1, top 10, you're getting close to that blow off top, which we're not even close to that yet. If we were to see a nice move on Bitcoin dominance and QE begins, then we can potentially start talking about making it to the top of this channel. I still don't know if we'll make it all the way up there. That's a very significant move, as the market cap's currently at 3.82 trillion for the entire crypto market. So making it all the way up to 13, 14 trillion seems a little crazy in a short period of time. But granted, crypto is very volatile, so things like that can happen. Do I think it's the most likely scenario? Probably not, but it's possible. It's still on the table for sure. And when we take a look at MSTR divided by IBIT, you can see we're actually finding a strong level of support right here, where we found support in February 2025 and March 2025. We got rejection and started to move up higher, and we're rejecting towards the upside right now, which is nice to see. and you can see that on the weekly. That's looking pretty solid. You have clean traffic on this candle, so maybe we can have a clean move all the way up to 6, and we can start outperforming IBIT. That'd be nice to see. On the weekly, we do have a key level of resistance at the 50 moving average and the 20, which are sitting at 614 and 627. On the daily, be aware that we are about to run into the 20-day SMA, so we might find a little bit of rejection on the way up there and potentially continue the move down. Hopefully, you can see a move up, retest off of that, and continue the move higher. Right now, it's been in a well-established downtrend, as you can see, and we haven't even broken that yet. So that'd be confluence to the downside. Along with this trend line, you have the trend line and the 20-day SMA as resistance above your head. So that could be a continuation to the downside. When you slap a fib on there, you can see we made it up to 382 and continue to move down. And if we pull this further on this move, we're only at the 236. So we can make it back to the 382, which kind of lines up with that area, and continue to move down as well. Now 236, if we find rejection here, that goes to show that the move is very strong, and this could actually continue on down further aggressively. But if we can pull back all the way to the 0.5618 and find rejection, maybe this move is kind of losing steam because the bulls are slowly showing power to the upside and kind of taking over. So ideally, you want to get a close back above the 618, use that as support, and continue up higher. Now on the Bollinger Bands, we have made it all the way to the bottom band, and this could just be a retest of the blue band, and we'll see if it actually decides to break above or not. It lines up with that 20-day SMA, and on a weekly, we are all the way at the bottom band. So maybe we make a move back to the blue band, and that takes us all the way to 627, which is pretty solid, which is it's a pretty large, outperformance by MSTR. If that happens, that would be roughly 13% outperformance, just making it back to the blue band. If we were to make it all the way up to the red band on MSTR, you're talking about outperforming by 30%, which is nice, and that's what we want to see. Of course, we'll see if we can get a nice move like that, or if this trend can continue to the downside. But right now, looks like we are finding some support. We're getting the Bollinger Bands holding up price as well, and hopefully it turns it back around and we can get a nice V-shaped recovery to the upside. Tether dominance is finding some resistance once again after pushing up higher once again. This could potentially just be a retest when you actually zoom in out here on the daily. We close back above this support level here, retesting. We'll see if it pushes up higher. This is increasing the odds of pushing up higher, which would signal a potential downturn on Bitcoin. But if we can get a nice red engulfing candle back to the downside and fall back underneath this downward sloping trend line and this key structure, then we can start talking about potentially retesting and continuing down, which would signal higher targets for Bitcoin. And as we approach this blue line, then you could be looking for that local top to potentially make some kind of move or decision if you like to do that kind of stuff. Some people are, just long-term investing, and some are trading. On the way down, if we want to break back underneath here and get a nice move on Bitcoin, you do have to break through the 50-day and the 20-day, which are going to be sitting at around 427 and 432. So those are the levels that I'd be watching out for if I were you. None of this is ever financial advice. Check out the Discord. The link is in the bio, the link tree. Check that out. Make sure you guys drop a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.